Hi everyone, my name is Charlie and today I have my May book haul. I have purchased more books than I thought I would do in May, but these aren't all the books that I purchased in May. There are some books that I borrowed from the charity shop that I may put into another haul because I'm currently deciding which ones of them that I want to keep and whether I want to keep any of them. So let's just start this haul, really. This month I decided that I wanted to read more poetry, having read quite a few of my poetry collections and the magazines that I have. And since I started taking the writing break, I have been writing more poetry because to me it kind of alleviates the anxiety because you have you have a first draft finished quite quickly, whereas with prose it takes a while and the anxiety builds up, really. I went to Amazon and I was going to buy some more Sharon Olds poetry because she is really a poet that I quite admire and I really enjoyed her last book, Stag's Leap. And I was looking at all of hers and I was seeing these other ones recommended and ended up just buying the ones that I'd had recommended to me by Amazon. So the first book we have is The Forward Book of Poetry, which is published by Forward Press and includes poetry from autumn 2014 to autumn 2015. It says on the back that it showcases the best poetry from throughout the UK, and I believe it focuses on single poems and collections of poems and shows the poets that are kind of doing stuff at the moment. So I'm hoping to do like I do with the Rialto and read through it, and if I like poets I will go and see if they have any other work out and probably purchase that as well. The next poetry collection I got was Physical by Andrew Macmillan, and this book won the 2015 Guardian First Book Award and has won plenty of other awards alongside that. Andrew Macmillan I have heard of before and I just haven't read any of his poetry. These poems seem to focus on the body and men and male sexuality, and it was a very impressive collection. I've read it already and I can actually really understand why it's won the awards that it has because I found the poems quite compelling, and I don't really know how to talk about poetry yet, but I know that I like the poetry in here. Next I have a book that I saw on Jen Campbell's channel and then it came up on Amazon as well. Maybe they just know I don't know. Anyway, it's The Way the Crocodile Taught Me by Katrina Naomi, and these poems focus on Katrina Naomi and I really enjoyed these poems because they were humorous and there were topics about her family and her stepfather, and I was reading a letter in the last edition of the Rialto in which someone criticised poets for being too personal nowadays. I really appreciate it when poets are being personal because I believe that in poets being personal, we as the reader are able to identify with the poets, feel sympathy and empathy, and we are able to draw from our own experiences to understand how the poet is feeling. And the poems in here were really good and they are worth a reread. There is some great exploration of form, both here and in the Andrew Macmillan collection, that I haven't really seen because I haven't been reading much modern poetry, and all I think people understand from poetry is what we are taught at high school. And personally I think when you're reading it as an adult and you're away from that sort of environment, you can get a lot more out of it because you are choosing the poems yourself. And anyway, I really appreciated this one and I really enjoyed it and might go. I believe she has another collection and I might buy that when I next have some money because I spent a lot this month. Beauty, Beauty by Rebecca Perry. The poems in here are really explorations of life and the environment and nature and the world around us, and I did read this and I'm not going to I should probably review these separately, but I'm treating this kind of like a wrap-up as well. So anyway, I read this. I didn't enjoy them as much as I enjoyed the other work, however they are still accomplished and they were experimenting with form, which is always a plus. I'm just not sure whether it went over my head because, you know, I'm not really the best English literature type person and there was quite a bit in here that went over my head, and even though there were things that I enjoyed, it just didn't feel as accomplished, it didn't feel as finished and polished as some of the other collections I have read. The next poetry collection I have is Bright Travellers by Fiona Benson, and the poems in here are quite poignant. They deal with, again, there is a collection of poems written kind of, it says in the blurb that they're like monologues and they're written towards Van Gogh. And they were incredible to read, and I really like that short collection. And then there's a few about the poet's miscarriages, and it's they're very sympathetic poems, and I enjoyed these as well. I will get better at talking about poetry at some point, I hope. I don't really understand anything about literature. It's just, I either like it, I don't like it, I'm somewhere in the middle, or I can criticise it, pull apart, and everyone hates me. I don't know. Now for something completely different is All New, All Different Avengers by Mark Waid, Adam Kubert, and Mahmoud Azra. I only bought this because it has Miss Marvel in, and we know how much I liked the Miss Marvel comic book series. So I don't know what happens in this. I imagine because it says All New, All Different Avengers that these people are all new and all different. I have the Farsier trilogy by Robin Hobb, which is Assassin's Apprentice, Royal Assassin, Assassin's Quest. I've purchased these books because Sam at Novels and Nonsense announced a Hob-along read-along, and it runs from May the 23rd until December, and it's reading all of the Robin Hobb books set in the world of Fitz. Everyone was talking about these books, and Sam was really enthusiastic about them last year, and I kept meaning to read them and never did. So this is finally my chance to. I'm really looking forward to reading this. I read the first chapter a few times already, and each time it kind of gives me that feeling that Harry Potter gave me when I was reading that as a child. So I'm hoping that that feeling continues, but if that feeling does continue, we may actually have a series that I cry at. And, you know, we haven't sobbed since sort of like a rock star. So, you know, we might sob. If there are any sad scenes, are there any? I don't know. We'll find out. I'm actually quite looking forward to reading these. I'm looking forward to getting back into reading fantasy, and my cousin is currently writing a fantasy novel. So if they are that good, I might get them for him too. We're already giving him the Mistborn trilogy, so, you know. Google wasn't very helpful at all at figuring out how to pronounce this author's name, but the book is The World Without Us by Mireille Jouchau. No, Jouchau. I don't know. She has a name. Anyway, the reason I bought this book, that you probably can't tell by the cover here, is because there is a bee on the cover, and the book talks about how the father has an apiary, and it deals with a dysfunctional family. It was really the first line of the blurb that got me. It has been 6 months since Tess Mueller stopped speaking, and then it talks about how her mother walks around with an empty pram. The bees are disappearing from her father's apiary, and then they meet this man by a river, and it seemed like it could be a book that I enjoy, but yes, I did buy it because of the cover and because it mentions bees, and even though I haven't finished The Hive yet and have been reading it since February, I do actually quite like bees and the thought of bees, and I kind of have to stop myself from buying beekeeping books because I'm never going to keep bees because I am still completely terrified of them, but I still think they are a fascinating creature, and it is all my friend Lydia's fault for ever mentioning them to me 3 years ago. The next book I think quite a few people have bought because of Jen Campbell's recommendation, and that is Arcadia by Ian Pearce. And I have seen a few of his books before. He was mentioned in Writing Magazine, I think maybe in the November issue, in which he talked about this book, and he talked about writing this and the app that you can download that goes with this, where you can choose how you read the story, and that you can read one person's story and go back and read another person's story, or you can read them how they are set out in the book. The first line of this, I don't know what it is with books and cats at the moment, but I have a book there called I Am a Cat, and I've got the rabbi's cat, and Murakami writes about cats, and this girl Rosie is going in search of a missing cat and finds a different world. Jen Campbell mentioned it reminded her of His Dark Materials, and I still keep meaning to read that series. I have had countless copies of that and still only read the first book. So I don't know. We'll read this at some point. I am looking forward to reading this when I can actually get around to it. I like anything that is a bit fantastical, and this seemed to be. And finally we have The Trees by Ellie Shaw, which was influenced by two things, in that I've previously tried to read an Ali Shaw book for uni and never got around to finishing it, and the cover, because the cover had a fox on it. Overnight, an entire forest appears out of the ground, and this man goes in search of his wife, and along the way he meets a woman and her son, and they embark upon this journey. And there is a blog I was following on Twitter who reviewed it, and they really enjoyed it, and I asked them about it, and they said that I will find the character compelling, he's a real hero, and I will just enjoy it, basically. So I'm really looking forward to this. I did have to get 2 copies of Amazon, because the first one I got was torn, but that was all sorted. They sorted it out really nicely, and I am looking forward to reading this book. And before I forget, I have what I think is probably my greatest bargain ever, and that is Someone at a Distance by Dorothy Whipple. This is a Persephone classic, and I went to my library book sale and it was there, and I thought, well, I have to have it because I want to read more female authors, and it's a Persephone classic which no one seems to want to buy me, and I'm too lazy to buy them for myself. Apparently it seems like a simple plot about a marriage between a man and a woman who've been married for 20 years, but then this French girl arrives, and there is a lot of stuff about psychology in here, and I am looking forward to reading it when I eventually get the chance, because I do have about 50,000 million books to read, and I have no idea when that's going to happen. So yes. Wow. As I said earlier, I do actually have 12 other books that I have borrowed from the charity shop where I work, and I'm probably actually going to end up buying them all, but if I do, it will be a separate haul. But it's one of the perils of working at a charity shop when people donate books and you are a book lover, because I have spent so much money on cheap books because they're books and I like books. This is a lot of books to be going on with. I am going to go downstairs and find out why the dog is howling, and until next time, that is all.